Welcome to another quick training with Straight Talk Commercial Real Estate Academy. My name's Dusty. I'm a commercial broker out here in Northern California. Today, we're going to talk quickly about CAM fees and net fees, how they're essentially merged together in a lot of ways and how they're different and how you can calculate them and how you can collect the money that you should be collecting, especially if you're a retail or net lease owner. As well as if you're an office building owner. Many office building owners, many retail owners are not collecting the fees that are literally built within their lease. So we're going to talk about how to calculate those, how to collect them, and how to keep them going forward. All right. Click on here. Cool. So like I said, most owners and new commercial brokers are messing up how these are collected and how they're calculated. So we're going to talk a bit about what they are. First thing you probably need to know, if you're not familiar, what a net lease is. Okay, so there's a couple different layers of leases. Let's go over that very quickly. Let's go all the way from one extreme to another. So first extreme would be a gross lease. Okay, this is where I'm just paying you a flat fee for the use of a space. This often happens with what we call like executive suites. So there's a room within an office that an office will lease out to someone, perhaps for just their one room area. And they're not paying utilities or anything. They're just paying one flat fee for the use of a space. And that's what a gross lease is, just one flat fee, you use the space. And then you move on to modified gross. This is what we tend to think of when we're thinking of like multifamily. So they're paying their flat fee plus some extra stuff. So this could be electrical and gas, their internet, stuff like that. Okay. And what you'll notice is, let's just move down the line here. As you go down and down, net, double net, triple net, absolute net, more and more as we go to that other extreme of absolute net, more is passed on to the tenant. So whereas on the top here, everything's on the landlord, and then I just pay him a flat fee for the rent. On the very bottom there, everything's on the tenant and they pay the rent. So they pay the rent, they pay utilities, they pay taxes, insurance, they maintain the building. They pay literally everything, and the owner also collects a base rent from that. So there's going to be different product types that land more and more in different areas. Like I said, modified gross, that tends to be more on the multifamily side. As we move down to net and double net and triple net, that's more in my realm, which is the retail type properties. We're going to talk a bit about those, calculate those fees, which are both the CAM fees and the net fees, and how to collect them properly so that you're not really damaging the cash flow and the value of your building. Let's talk. So there's two things again. There's CAM fees and net fees. Okay, so CAM fees are going to generally be folded into whatever net fees you're collecting, but we do want to talk about them separately. CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance. And really, it's just the operational maintenance costs incurred for managing the common areas or the common access areas of a building. So in retail, this could be the landscaping and all the common walkways. There's probably an electrical meter that manages or runs for the parking lot. In office, you're going to have more maintenance required because all of these common areas, you've got interior walkways, you've got bathrooms and other things that are much maintained and managed and cost generally more than you would in retail. And these will be different for each type. But those are the CAM fees, right? And then you have what's called net fees. So CAM again, so these are operational costs, utilities, landscaping, maintaining the common areas, repairing the common areas, stuff like that. Net fees are more fixed fees in addition to that. Each lease is going to call out specifically what these are. And a lease is going to, you're reading through a lease for a retail or an office building. These are 30 or 40 pages. Okay. And generally speaking, they're each going to call out specifically what is paid by the tenant and what is paid by the owner and how it's paid. Is it reimbursed or do they pay it directly? Okay. And things, and you can see here, some of these net fees, taxes, insurance, stuff like that. those could be paid directly by the tenant, right? So if I've got a one building here, like a Burger King, they're the only tenant. A lot of times they're paying the taxes directly and they're just proving it to me as the building owner that they've done so. Okay. But a lot of times too, if you've got multi-tenants, they're going to be reimbursing that to the building owner. And we need to talk about how that's done, because there needs to be an accountability going back for the last year on what that was and how the building owner adjusts going forward, because it's not going to be a fixed amount, whether it's the net fees or the CAM fees or both combined, which a lot of times, again, they're kind of combined together. That's not going to stay fixed. And a lot of times I see owners where it says, hey, yeah, here's the rent, and $100 of that is our net fees. For all intents and purposes, it's a modified gross at that point. They're paying their electric and their personal stuff, but your net fees and your CAM fees are not adjusting annually according to what you're paying. If within the lease, it just says a fixed, it's $100 a month, that's it. That's not real. That's not really going to help you as far as resale value goes, right? So your net fees are not going to go up over time, and it's not a true reimbursement to you the way it should be. Okay, so that's a bit about how those two things differ. Generally speaking on these net leases. So again, we talked about gross leases going all the way up to net leases. Net leases could be net, double net, triple net, all the way, absolute net. In that realm, the lease is going to determine what is and what is not on the tenant and what is and what is not on the owner. So you need to read the lease. Someone may tell you it's a net lease, but they actually mean it's a triple net, absolute net lease. They may see it's an absolute net lease, but it's not. The owner is responsible for building and structure. So you need to read the lease to determine, where specifically that lands. But as a general rule, if you have multi-tenants, more than one tenant, and they reimburse you for stuff, they reimburse you the taxes. So even if they're a full net lease property, a lot of times within the lease, there is a clause where you can charge them a management fee for that kind of stuff. So just example right here, say my CAM fees or my net fees total, let's just kind of lump those together. These fees I'm being reimbursed are $10,000. My clause within my leases say, hey, I can charge up to 10% of my reimbursable fees, operational net fees, CAM fees, whatever. So I can calculate an additional $1,000 there. So they're reimbursing me my CAM or net fees for $10,000, right? These are the things I incurred, my utilities, my taxes, all that stuff. That within the lease, they say they're going to reimburse me. But because of the lease says I can charge, essentially a trouble, for my troubles fee, management fee of 10%, I can dock additional $1,000 on there. So total, there's $11,000 being reimbursed to me for that year. Okay. Now, the way we're able to calculate that is by going back a year. Okay, so it's not moving forward. I think it's going to cost me roughly $10,000. What we're doing is we're saying last year, it actually cost me $10,000. So this year, we're going to calculate based on that, and if it's different, we're going to adjust. And here's how that works. Say we were saying, calculating for 10,000, right? So each tenant's paying their portion of that. So and we're going to calculate that. I'm going to show you how to do that. But they're paying their portion of that $10,000. End of the year comes around, we find out, hey, it actually cost us $12,000 to maintain that area. Okay, the common areas, the landscaping went up, maybe utilities went up, whatever. So I have not been reimbursed $2,000 of that money. Okay, so the way we do that is we, settle up with those tenants. Okay, and it's going to be difficult if you've never done that before. Your tenant's basically going to push back and say absolutely not, even though it's in their lease. So it's important you do this from day one. And if not, you can adjust by probably re-signing a lease where their total payout, say their base rent is $5,000 and they have to pay a certain amount on top of that. Make sure their balance of their rent is equivalent to what they were paying. So maybe their base rent goes down by $1,000 because they have $1,000 in net fees they need to be paying me. So their total out of pocket is the same, if you see what I'm saying. But then that allows you going forward to start adjusting as annually needed. In this example, an additional $2,000 for that year. So I get re-upped for my $2,000 that was not reimbursed. And then going forward for this year, going forward, we're saying, okay, your pro rata portion of that payout is now this per month, right? And they're going to want to know per month what their out of pocket is, so they can know what total to pay you per month. And we'll talk about how to calculate that. I'm hoping that makes sense. If not, comment, let us know. There's a couple different pieces to that. But at the very basic part of that, calculating these things, here's how it works. It's per square foot. And I like to use per month. Sometimes it's per year. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let's assume our building's 5,000 square feet. We have those $10,000 in fees that we paid, right? And these are expenses incurred by us. Again, we've got our utilities and our taxes and insurance and all that stuff that on the lease they're supposed to be reimbursing us for. So we're going to break that down by foot. Okay. So we divide that by the 5,000 square feet. We find out that per foot per year, whoever the tenant is, should be paying $2 per foot per year to reimburse us for those monies. Okay, that's 16 cents a month. So what you'll find is when you look at leases online, the base rent is one thing, and the net/CAM fees, it's really, they just call net fees, but it's all lumped in together. The net fees are an additional to that. So a tenant occupying those 2,500 square feet, let's say there's two tenants there, one each at 2,500 square feet. They pay their base rent of whatever that is, plus they reimburse me monthly for these CAM and net fees, right? We calculated what those were last year. We're going to assume that for this year. We'll settle up at the end of the year if it's not sufficient, but based on that, we're saying, hey, you owe me 16 cents per foot per month. And that shakes out to $400. So they're paying me their base rent plus an additional $400. So their total out of pocket is a certain amount. And what you'll find is, here, this doesn't matter. This is, hey, if it's a single tenant property, they're going to essentially pay everything. They don't need to do any of those calculations. But what you'll find is, let's pull up a, see if I can pull this over here. Here, hang on, bear with me. We're going to pull up a LoopNet. There we go. And let me just show you what that looks like. So I just pulled up Los Angeles for lease retail type properties. And I'll show you kind of how that breaks down, because a lot of tenants will think, oh, my rent's, only what the base rent is, right? So here you can see here, it says $4.30 to $8 a month a foot. The net fees are going to be over and above that. Let's see if we can find a good example. Here might be a good example. Here's a retail, shopping center anchored property. We've got the space. So here's all the spaces that are available. Okay. Oh, and you can see here. So here's the rate, $325 a foot a month, plus our net fees. Okay, net and CAM fees. So these are over and above the foot per month. So let's do a quick calculation. Again, tenants aren't going to think of this, especially on the small and mid-size. How many square feet is this? 897 times 3.25, right? That's how much per foot per month it's costing us. So if a tenant's looking at this, they're going to say, oh yeah, my rent's going to be $29.15. Okay, and that's not the case. It's $29.15 plus this. So we do 3.25 plus 0.65, 3.9, right? So that's my base rent plus my net fees is actually what I'm paying per month. And that's what the tenant cares about. So we multiply that by 897. So it's not $2,900 a month. It's closer to $3,500 a month for this tenant. So as a landlord too, you want to put it in just like this, because if you put it in at a rate of 3.9 a foot per month, you won't get any calls, right? Even though it's the same. Okay. You need to put it in as the base rent. That's how it's typically done. And then you make sure people know what the net fees are estimated over and above the base rent. And that's how you should be listing properties. These people did great. And just something to be aware of. Hopefully this helps. Let's get back here. Where are we? Where are we? This is the type of stuff we do every single day. There we go. I'm sorry, every single Friday we do office hours. We do a training just like this. If you like training like this, we have over 50 plus classes on different commercial real estate topics like apartments, office, retail, introduction topics, you name it, we've taught about it. And if we haven't taught about it and you want to learn about it, go ahead and ask us and we'll make a class on it. Link is in the description down there. If you want to join us, love to hear from you, love to help you learn commercial real estate, and we will see you next time.